I'm Dana Schwartz, and this is Rise or Die, the official companion podcast for Peacock's original series, Those About to Die. On this podcast, I go behind the scenes with the show's cast and creators to learn how they brought their brutal vision of Rome to life.
Gosh, people will freak out.
Rise or Die launches on July 18th. Watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate. We were both on a little show you might know called Supernatural.
It had a pretty good run, 15 seasons, 327 episodes.
And though we have seen, of course, every episode many times, we figured, hey, now that we're wrapped, let's watch it all again.
And we can't do that alone, so we're inviting the cast and crew that made the show along for the ride. We've got writers, producers, composers, directors, and we'll of course have some actors on as well, including some certain guys that played some certain pretty iconic brothers.
It was kind of a little bit of a left field choice in the best way possible.
The note from Kripke was, he's great, we love him, but we're looking for like a really intelligent Duchovny type.
With 15 seasons to explore, it's going to be the road trip of several lifetimes. So please join us and subscribe to Supernatural then and now.
Hello, and welcome back to Angel on Top, the podcast where we are watching and discussing every episode of Angel in order, one by one, spoiler-free, and in tandem with buffering the Vampire Slayer. I'm Laura Zach.
And I'm Brittany Ashley. And this week we're chatting about Season 1, Episode 4, I Fall to Pieces. Stick around until the end of this podcast for an original poem written by us, Through the Smoldering Eyes of Angel.
I Fall to Pieces was written by David Greenwalt and Joss Whedon and directed by Vern Gillum. It aired on October 26th, 1999.
It's creepy, but sadly it is not a Halloween episode. This episode is about Angel aiding a woman being stalked by a deranged surgeon who is literally coming apart. But before we get into the episode,
some announcements.
Dun, 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 dun.
First of all, we have t-shirts.
We have one shirt to be exact.
We have
many to be sold.
Multiple of the same shirt to be sold. It is our Angel on Top titular t-shirt. It'll look good on your titulars.
And I don't know if you saw that picture of Kristen wearing it.
Did I ever? It was smoking.
Angelic.
Oh. As seen on Kristen Russo on Instagram.com and soon to be seen on our bods.
And it's really hot. If you want to just rip the sleeves off, we wouldn't be mad at that.
Not at all. We encourage it. And also, just in case you're worried, this is going to be the first of many pieces of exciting merchandise that we have planned for you. But of course, since this is our first Hello Merch venture, we want to get down some of that t-shirt inventory first. There could potentially be fresh brewed mugs. There could potentially be pins or t-shirts that say, I heart flirtation, understanding, consent, and kissing. There could be many other things that we've maybe spied some chatter about on the Patreon Facebook group. Lots of t-shirt ideas getting started there. But first, we got to sell down some of these.
We got to sell these shirtsies. And if you are a $10 Patreon supporter, you already know that you got 20% off of this shirt.
Please consider supporting us via the purchase of this beautiful shirt, and just think of it as support for all the great things to come as well.
Consider yourself an angel investor.
Oh, love that. I love that.
I loved it when it was coming out of my mouth. I knew it was going to be gold.
Just to keep you in the know of your upcoming calendar, next week you will get the lovely ladies of Buffering in the recording of their live show that they did this week in New York for the episode Beer Bad of Buffy. And then the week after that will be an incredible Angel episode, Room with a View. Unfortunately, Laura, will be traveling.
But fortunately, Kristen will be subbing in.
I may have to give my fuckwatch vote from afar, though.
A mobile fuckwatch.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you can look forward to 2 consecutive weeks of Kristen after this week.
What a dream.
Should we get into it?
Let's get into it.
All right. Episode 4, Season 1, I Fall to Pieces. So we start out with Doyle and Cordelia in the office, once again fretting about money, especially Cordelia, but they're both pretty much in agreement that they need to sort some shit out with Angel so that they can start getting paid.
It's also interesting to see Cordelia trying to take care of the finances because, if I might remind you, her family went bankrupt in Sunnydale because her dad didn't pay taxes for 12 years. And even though she did get accepted to college, she wasn't able to pay for it because of her family's financial situation. So it's just interesting that she's now taking charge of the company's finances.
I think it makes sense when you've just sort of relied on someone else to worry about that stuff and then that other person failed you so fantastically.
Now you're like trying to take control of it so that it doesn't happen again.
Right. Like I will never put that into someone else's hands again, my own livelihood.
Right.
And also you notice in this scene that Doyle is still weaving in the flirtatious comments with Cordelia. But it seems like, based on her reaction, that it's now just sort of, she's not grossed out anymore. It's just sort of a part of their dynamic where she's just kind of like, pay attention, Doyle.
Not necessarily workplace harassment, but not necessarily flattering either.
Sure. Maybe if this is where their relationship plateaued, she might later during the Me Too movement look back and take issue. But right now, she's just sort of like, dudes, am I right?
But the major thing that we're learning is that Angel doesn't feel comfortable asking people for money. And we also learned that Angel drinks coffee, ?
Yeah, coffee was basically a character.
Yeah.
Bad coffee was basically a character in this episode. And also we learn that Doyle understands the attraction to Angel.
Yeah. Like, oh, he wants to play the hero. Like,
part of his attraction is that he just swoops in and fixes things. Like, he's not about asking for money. That's not part of his brand. Basically what it was saying without actually saying brand.
Totally.
Then Angel comes in and immediately knows what they're going to say to him as soon as they start complimenting him on like, oh, you've been doing such a good job saving the ladies lately. And he's like, oh, I don't feel comfortable asking for money.
But then, woohoo, vision alert. With some crazy ass industrial rock as the soundtrack. And this vision is like stock footage of like a 90s HR video.
Totally. Or it was like he was seeing into Dunder Mifflin. It was a paper company. And he sees a woman named Melissa just, has his sense that something's going to go wrong with her, which causes Angel to immediately be like, time to get to work and to swoop away. And then there's this incredible, earnest close-up of Doyle's baby blues, very sincerely saying, maybe I am a little attracted. And I loved that moment.
At first he was like, no homo. And then he's like, well, actually, the swing
little
of
homo.
his coattails is a little hot. And we also learned that the address of this place is 200 Wilshire Boulevard.
Did you look it up? Because I did. Santa Monica.
Yeah, Wilshire and Ocean. It's a block away from the beach, which, again, doesn't make a ton of sense that he's doing so much work in Santa Monica when downtown is a decent scoot away. And how's he going to get there? How's he going to get there?
And when we see later a view from the offices, and it's clearly downtown LA.
Oh, entirely.
I would have thought they would have just made up an address, but I still like being able to provide these tidbits.
So now we're in this paper company office, and we instantly get the politics of working in a nondescript, boring office. The woman has to do the emotional labor of getting the sheet cake for someone's birthday, which is Melissa.
She also provides a potted plant to her friend. Now, was the woman's name Penny?
The woman's name was Penny.
The cake said Benji, and then they were trying to fix it, but it felt like a lot was wrong with the name. Like it wasn't a slightly off misspelling.
No.
Yeah.
I think it was one of the writers in the room that was like, listen, I have this really kick-ass like Penny, Benji, Penji joke. Can I please just use it? And they're like, I guess.
Yeah, and they just need an excuse for her to get like frosting on her face.
Totally. But then she gets some flowers sent to her. And the card says, my undying love, Ronald.
And you can tell she's flustered. This is not a bouquet she was hoping to get.
Yeah, and that was a lot of flower. Like, that's an expensive investment to be that creepy. Like, those flowers probably cost like $80.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays more. $80.99. So Melissa goes to the bathroom to pop some pills in her sensible sweater dress business combo. with sequin details. And we can tell something's really under her skin. And then cut to her leaving the office, and Angel, smooth as ever, approaching a woman in a dark parking lot, saying, "You all right?"
Detective Angel. My name's Angel. I'm in private security. And he's trying to explain what he does, and he just really hasn't gotten his elevator pitch down.
No, he's very cryptically saying that she may be in need of his services. You can tell that he still hasn't locked it down. Like, it's very much reminiscent of Lonely Hearts, although slightly improved.
Yeah,
at least he had like the business card. And
at least this time he like knows that the person he's approaching needs help in a way. It's just like, how do you make that connection of saying like, I know you need me, but I know that you can't know why I need you.
Right.
You need me. Right.
Because this time Doyle actually, when he came out of his vision, he said her name. So he had a specific person. Whereas in the Dublique episode,
missed that episode.
He just had the location.
But this interaction makes Angel reflect inward. He really wonders if he's intimidating, like, yo, would I scare women if I pop out of dark spaces? And then he even offers that maybe like Cordelia should talk to her because Cordelia is not going to be intimidating.
It does lead to Doyle providing a really sound insight. And actually, one thing I found about this episode in general, which I'll flag them when we get to the different moments, but there were a lot of rigorous insights. There was a lot of like self-help talk in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Like really, and every character got their moment to provide that insight to another. And so this was the first moment where Doyle, probably like on a high of his newly found attraction for Angel, he framed the fact that they should be paid in the terms of, you don't want these people to become attached or feel indebted to you emotionally. Like, and I actually think this is very true. Like when you create a super tangible exchange of I am providing this thing and then you are paying me this amount, it ends the deal there. It doesn't create this like lasting hook. Mm-hmm. And so he frames it to Angel that way, basically being like, everyone's attracted to you and you don't want them to like keep lingering after you do what you need to do for them.
Right. And also like it's probably more valuable to the person to feel resolved in just making this transactional and not adding the element of still holding on to like, I owe this person this, you know what I mean? And Angel doesn't want that either. There's enough guilt to go around.
There's did you ever read the novel Choke by Chuck Palahniuk?
Oh, you mean
right there on your bookcase?
Yeah.
Right there in the case?
Where
the cast next to the case?
She's over there somewhere.
But did you read it? Is the follow-up question. But do you remember that premise is the main character purposefully feigns almost dying or actually does go through with almost choking so that strangers and bystanders have to step in and save him, and then they feel weirdly like responsible for him for a long time and like give him money and all of these things. It's like when you've energetically attached to someone through trauma,
totally,
it's really hard to cut those cords. As we know, we talk a lot about cord cutting on our other podcast. And
if anyone wants a really great cord pulling exercise, I am 3 for 3.
When did you do a third cord pull?
I don't have to tell you everything.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. You are your own woman.
I think that my third was something like internal. It wasn't like a person. It was more like an internal thing.
Oh, I didn't know you could do it that way.
I don't know if you can.
So now we're with Melissa at the ATM. And this is where all of her fears are going to be realized.
Yeah. ATM scenes can either go one of two ways. Holy shit, I have a bunch of money, or oh no, I have zero monies.
Or I'm going to shove this kitten into that slot. American Psycho, anyone?
Oh shit.
Did you see that?
No.
The thing is, I don't even remember if it made the film adaptation, and I never even read the book. I just was told of this scene, and it horrified me so much that it stuck with me without having ever experienced it myself.
Wow, that is visceral.
It was for sure in the book. I'm not sure it was in the movie. It may have been too extreme for audiences.
Yeah. That is the opposite of saving the cat.
Yeah, it truly is.
Screenwriting joke, anyone?
So, yeah. I feel like, did we make a screenwriting joke in the last one, too?
We certainly did.
Hell yeah. Ooh,
So Melissa's bank account is being controlled by this creepy-ass doctor. He seems to have eyes on her at all times, and he pops out of nowhere. And it's actually the actor Andy Umberger, who also plays a vengeance demon in Buffy. He's D'Hoffryn. You haven't gotten there yet.
Whoa.
He's heavily cloaked in makeup, so you'd never really see. You wouldn't be able to notice.
Don't tell us anymore, because spoilers.
So we also learn that Ronald is obviously obsessed with Melissa, but we learn that they only went on one date.
Yeah, he's basically whatever the 1999 version of an incel would be.
Yeah.
Like a men's rights, most likely online troll who believes that women have some sort of obligation to them and that their feelings should be reciprocated.
Yeah, and also like building an entire narrative around this person that you don't even know, not letting them be the subject of their own lives or like have agency whatsoever.
Right. Just fully projecting what you want them to be to you. And it was pretty funny, the timing of the edit, that you go from this creepy scene at the ATM where he ends it by saying, "I'll see you tonight." And then it cuts to the phone ringing in Angel's office. So that was the final straw for Melissa. She's ready for some help.
And then ring, ring, we help the hopeless. And that is their new slogan. It's very catchy. But we quickly learn that Melissa will be coming in. And she comes in, she tells Cordelia, Doyle, and Angel that this has been going on for 7 months, that she went on one date with this dude, Dr. Ronald Meltzer.
Also, she only went on the date because she felt obligated because he was her neurosurgeon and operated on her eye and repaired a nerve in her eye. And then he asked her out. So again, that is an example of what we were talking about before. Like when someone has done something for you that has had such an impact on you, like you feel obligated to give them what they want in some way.
The major mystery is, how can Ronald see everything that she's doing? Because he makes multiple observations about, or like statements about what she had done that day. And so it's clear that like he's got eyes on her somehow.
Like he had mentioned that he had seen that she had taken the pills and that she had taken 3 pills specifically.
But also notice that Angel opted for a beige sweater. So he's really taking this intimidation thing to heart. He's really trying to change his image a little bit to not wear only black.
And I think he's more comfortable with colors that are as close as possible to being shirtless.
Yeah.
Cordelia, of course, is immediately like, "Ooh, a doctor."
Yeah.
Like, she's just like, "Okay, of course you gave him a chance. I mean, no one would blame you, girl." Did you have any theories at this point?
I did.
I wonder if we had the same theory.
I was like, it's obviously behind her eye.
Yes,
it's
right?
It's like a Black Mirror episode, but wow, was I wrong that
That's
his
what I thought
fucking
too. Like,
eyeball can travel.
Right. Like when she was like, "Oh, he operated on my eye and now he sees everything." And then they sit there hoeing and humming about what could it possibly be? I was like, duh.
It's behind her eye.
Yeah,
it's behind her eye.
He installed something in her.
Right.
But au contraire.
Which probably would have been much easier than what he actually ended up doing.
Way less impressive.
Yes.
But we do see Melissa at the end of this long day in her home. And we see a floating eyeball, which I never really needed to see.
No.
But it's just watching her undress.
But we also learned some other things about Melissa, about what her life was like before this guy started stalking her. She had a picture of a husky dog on her desk.
I also noticed that.
Not sure what happened to that dog.
Same. I feel like that dog would have sniffed out that eyeball.
Yeah. She used to skydive, you know?
No, bungee jump, actually, which is really bad for your spine.
But then she met him. Damn, I thought that it was skydive, and now my tiny redirect doesn't even make any sense.
Just saying. We'll see.
I went on one date with this chick, and she sent me flowers to my work the next day. And she put on the card, second date, we should go skydiving. And then she like started dating someone else.
So do you think skydiving was a euphemism for like, jump out of my life, please?
That would have been a much better card.
And with the flowers too.
Do you remember who it was? Yeah.
Wait, I didn't know the thing about the skydiving.
Yeah.
That's fucking weird.
Yeah. Angel is like, I got someone on the inside.
And we know who that is. A real pretty lady.
But we see that they've built up this like respect for one another. Time and space really does solve everything.
So that your understanding of this moment was that they haven't seen each other since the ambulance scene, though, right? Where they parted ways after.
Probably.
Yeah. So it's not like they've had communication.
Exactly. And now I think that they can come to this, whatever like friendship they have with each other, they can come to it a little more rational and not as charged as before.
But still a little charged, because the first thing that Kate says when she sees him is like, oh, you're acting uncomfortable. You either want a favor or you want to ask me out on a date.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh, yeah, that's the first thing, like their first exchange.
God, she's such a little wackadoo.
She is so awkward. And we talked about this with Lonely Hearts, but they both were like hiding something in that episode and were kind of being withholding and awkwardly flirtatious in the same way.
Yeah, they were kind of like role playing in a way.
Yeah, totally. But as far as she knows for now, Angel is a PI and she knows nothing of the supernatural to do with any of this. So he frames it as, I've got a client, she's being stalked, and Kate seems to know how that goes and is immediately like, this is already trouble.
Yeah, I really love what Kate had to say, where she was...
Insight number 2.
Yes, where Angel was like, well, we got to throw this guy in jail. And Kate was like, she's still going to be afraid he took this girl's power away. Like, he didn't... Like, even if he's in jail, she's still going to be afraid. And I don't know, I thought it was like a really profound statement in terms of speaking about victims and how our justice system is built on punishment, but not on rehabilitating the victim or the victim's feelings.
Right. And the lasting effects of certain abuses that go beyond the act itself.
Yeah. And that like just putting someone in jail or giving someone a sentence or anything that the justice system can do, it can't possibly give back what was taken away. And there's nothing that is equal value to that.
And she says that Ronald has taken Melissa's power away and that the only one who can truly get it back for her is her. And this is important because I feel like that plants a seed both in the audience's mind and in Angel's mind for certain things that are said or expressed later.
So he decides he's going to fucking go on the inside and he's going to go to Dr. Ronald's office. And he starts to just do a little snooping around and he sees a picture of Melissa on his desk, which, first of all, how the fuck did he get that picture?
It also looked like her headshot or
It
like
did.
her company photo that she puts on the website.
It looks like the picture that you get taken when you're in like middle school and it's the spring and you like get to bring a prop and stand and lean against a tree.
Well,
or,
I
like
feel
pop out from behind a tree.
Forgive me, I don't remember exactly what the internet was like in 1999, but it seems like he literally could have gone onto her paper company's website, pulled up the About Us staff page, taken a high res, download of that photo and printed it out.
You know who he reminds me of?
A lot of men I've met.
But also in the Buffyverse, Ted.
Oh.
Joyce's boyfriend, who was a robot who was killing women.
Yeah, but I feel like Ted was a little bit more, he was a little bit more two-faced. Like, this guy is fully being himself with Melissa. He's just eluded. Like, he's not tricking anyone.
No, I definitely note the differences, but there's some similarities there of like being obsessed and going like from 0 to 100 and like the picture of them on the desk and being like, we're engaged, like that type of shit.
Right.
They're cut from the same cloth, Ronald and Ted.
And so Angel gives the best acting performance that we have seen him do so far in the series.
He must have studied at UCB because what an incredible improviser.
Truly. And
he knew his wants. He knew his character.
He knew how to echo the information that he was gathering from the environment in order to seduce his partner in the scene in the way he needed to.
He knew the term ocular nerve.
Well, and someone needed to have the nerve to operate because he had seen a book called Anything's Possible on Meltzer's bookcase, and it was inscribed from the author
Dr. Vinper.
But it referenced having the nerve. And then Angel, in order to convince the doctor to not call security on him, was like, my wife, she is sick. She needs a surgery. I just need to find someone who has the nerve.
I don't know why it reminded me of the Guy Fieri meme where he's holding a giant hot dog like a baby and he says, my wife, she's very sick. She needs help. But Angel finds a way to get Ronald to open up. He was like, who's this pretty lady here? And he's like, she's my fiance. And he's like, would you die for her? And now this is what I call a plan. Not Cordelia and Doyle throwing the real gem of Amara a few mere feet away, hoping that Spike is too slow to pick it up. Like, this was a plan that was fully executed and successful for the most part, at least in the beginning.
He appealed to this guy's ego. He appealed to his wallet. He appealed to his empathy around the love of a woman. He wrapped it all in a tidy bow.
Would we call it love or obsession, though?
Well, in his own mind, it's love.
Mm-hmm.
So Angel was appealing to that narrative. And he also was appealing his science ego. He was like, I'm not going to wait for the law to catch up with science, which he already had gathered enough about this person to know that he has radical techniques and is maybe functioning outside of what's legal. He, gives a convincing performance, leaves him with his card, and is like, please, please.
And then we get to Cordelia and this doctor. And I'm sorry, but they have chemistry.
Please don't apologize, because I didn't actually notice it, but now, upon reflection, I see what you mean.
And Cordelia is doing a little bit of acting work herself. She's posing as a journalist. And she is getting this doctor, who is also a woman, to expose some of Dr. Ronald's practices and how he treats women. And she says just that. Like, she doesn't like how he treats women. And wow, I just love a woman who supports another woman. And she gave Cordelia her lead. She gives her info in the name of journalism and feminism.
As a podcast network, our focus is bringing you shows you love to listen to. But we also sell merch related to those shows. And partnering with Shopify has made that both possible and simple for us to do. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor adventures, Shopify helps you sell everywhere because they've got you covered, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. What's so fantastic about Shopify is how, no matter how big you want to grow, they provide everything you need to get control of your business so you can take it to the next level. Businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/realm.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
And potentially in the name of romanticism.
And if Cordelia's looking for a doctor, I mean, look no further.
Right. It's under your nose, girl.
Yeah.
You know?
Sometimes you got to look around.
Big talk about wanting a doctor, and here one is.
Hello. So Angel knows how Dr. Ronald thinks, and
Insight number 3.
Yeah, so he says, it's not about Melissa, it's about rage. And perhaps he knows something about that from when he was in Jealous. Like, he would go after these, like when he went after Drusilla, it wasn't about Drusilla, it was about finding one person and fucking ruining her life because you just want to let out this anger that you have inside of yourself.
Right. He talks about Ronald being too messed up to deal with a real woman, so creating a fantasy and projecting it onto a woman, and how when he looks at her, he only really sees how damaged he is.
Right.
It's holding
she's like
up,
a mirror.
Yeah. An uncomfortable mirror.
She represents to him his own flaws and what he hates about himself when she doesn't react the way that he wants, which is clearly a product of
The patriarchy!
Let's talk about Dr. Vin, who is Ortiz in Speed, and apparently his office is in a creepy haunted castle.
He's the author of Everything's Possible, who apparently had a mental breakdown after holding a workshop for yogis and doctors. This show was really ahead of its time.
Totally.
I feel like this episode is Me Too. It's yoga. It's self-help. It is female solidarity.
It is
timeless
style.
So we learn through the interview with this doctor that he had taught psychic surgery and had been training in the theory of doctors that could shut down their somatic systems and essentially detach parts of their bodies. And he talked about how Ronald had taken it from the theory to the tangible. And Angel's like, so did you stop believing? And he's like, no, I stopped because I believed completely.
So now Melissa is sleeping and peekaboo, I see you. Literally.
I thought it was hands.
No. First it's the eyeball.
No, because he's outside the building and the cop comes and he has both of his eyeballs but no hands.
Oh, you're right. Damn, I should have used that eye pun earlier. Ronald is right outside of the gate of her apartment, and this cop who Kate had sent to patrol Melissa's apartment spots Dr. Ronald and tells him to put his hands up. But holy crap, his hands are no longer attached to his body. And I got chills. I said, no. Because when the officer sees that he has no hands, rather than being like, hello, what are you doing sneaking and creeping? Instead, he's like, wow, I'm so sorry. I thought you were someone else because the person I'm looking for has hands.
Also, how unrealistic is it to begin with that an older white man in a suit is going to be held at gunpoint by a cop?
True.
Really,
exactly.
That cop would have been like, listen, sir, I'm so sorry. Like, we were just called in to be looking in this area, and it's obviously not you, but if you wouldn't mind just showing me some ID,
Well, that's going to come back and bite that cop in the ass.
Yeah, it is karma. But we do see where the hands are, and it's a couple of things from Addams Family doing a really creepy dance. Like, the way they walk, like, everything about the movement of the hands.
Well, may I please give you a very fun fact?
Sure.
Which is that this actor, Christopher Hart, who played the hands, also played the hands in the Addams Family. Those are the same. Yes, those are the same hands for Thing. And he was also in a little film called Idle Hands, starring Devon Sawa and Seth Green.
Has he ever performed as his full self or only as a hand?
He's been in very few things as himself. For the most part, he plays hands.
Do you think that the other actors in this episode of Angel felt starstruck by the hand?
Possibly.
Do you think he used two different hands, or was it like a Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen where there can only be one hand on at a time, like when they were babies on Full House?
No, he used both hands at the same time.
So only one of them was Thing.
No, they both are.
No, Thing was only one hand.
Yeah, but he used both hands for this.
Right. All I'm saying is only one of those hands was Thing, because that was only one hand. Thing from Addams Family was only one hand.
Sure.
So one was making its film debut. I think I'm mostly just stalling because I'm so uncomfortable with the fact of what happened next, which is that those hands creeped under the covers of where Melissa was sleeping, and we're just meant to, assume where
sexual assault
they were going.
Yes. Yeah. And the cop gets straight up strangled by Ronald's two hands when Melissa yells for the cops and like runs out of her apartment and stuff, and he's like, "Miss, there's nobody here. You're crazy." And I bet he wishes that he had checked up to see what that dude was doing, and then the hands go right back to daddy.
They kill the cop.
Yeah, they strangle him to death.
They straight up kill him. And as Melissa is running away, she runs into Angel, and he's like, "I'm here, it's me." And which honestly, like, I don't care if you're charging a person for your services. If you're showing up and looking like that and saying, "It's okay, it's me," and then like embracing
them in their
client,
most like vulnerable state, it's like, what are you expecting?
It's going to be confusing.
Yeah.
And it's also confusing for someone who's looking on like a fucking creep in the bushes.
Yeah. Dr. Ronald, he sees them, and now he has become enraged. And also, Angel's cover is blown. He should have known.
So Kate gets to the scene because one of her men is down. And again, the way we know that she still does not suspect anything supernatural is that she says, like, "Yeah, your client's not making a lot of sense," to Angel. So clearly Melissa's trying to tell the truth of the story, and the cops are not understanding. And Kate is basically like, "How did he do it? How did he get into her space? Is he Houdini?" And Angel's like, "Something like that."
Right. And she says that she found footprints and she wants to see if they match. And if they do, then she'll, lock him up or whatever. But even at this point, it's like, how can you even put him in jail? Because there's nothing to stop him from like letting his little digits roam and,
Well, and as Doyle points out, very uncomfortably, he was surprised there wasn't something else in the bed.
Yeah. Which, how would that walk,
Why couldn't one of the hands carried it?
That's so weird. That's such a weird visual.
I guess one hand would have to carry it and then ride on top of the back of the other hand. I also think that Doyle is starting to become genuinely creeped out. I mean, Cordelia as well, and he's sort of realizing like nothing is going to stop this guy. Like anything that stands between him and his obsession, he's going to take down. And then there's the realization of, oh, we are between him and his obsession.
But it's also like, how does Doyle know this much about like obsession and stuff? Like before this, we don't really see him as like super insightful and like the beacon of wisdom.
Yeah, he really had it. He took a turn for me this episode. I mean, he clearly has a thing for Cordelia. And there's one moment, I don't think we've hit it yet, but there's one moment where I think it's coming up next, where they're talking about, like, Cordelia's basically like, what's the point of dating anyone? Because you can never find someone where there's equal attraction. It's either like you want someone more than they want you, or vice versa. And Doyle plays it off like, oh yeah, I'm not sure what you mean. That sounds awful. So I think he's maybe has that intuitive knowledge in himself of what it's like to have this attachment to someone who doesn't reciprocate it. And he's just kind of like taking it to the next level if he were crazy and abusive.
So then Cordelia is trying to tell Angel that, yo, this dude is super dangerous. But then they get a phone call to their office, and that's on their special line where it's not Angel Investigations. It's like one of their like alias phone lines. And she answers and then directs it to Angel. But Angel doesn't know that Dr. Ronald knows that Angel knows about he and Melissa.
Right. Angel thinks he's going over. He's bringing a steel box so he can collect some of the doctor's pieces and bury them so that they atrophy and die. But he thinks that he has sold the idea of his ailing wife. But au contraire, the doctor's ready for him. He's creepily sitting in a dark room.
Dart to the neck.
Tranquilizer.
And it's supposed to slow down his heart, but Angel doesn't have a heartbeat, right? Because he doesn't have blood flow?
Yeah, he's not an animal. He's not living.
So then he's just acting again?
No, I think it truly affected him. It just didn't kill him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was acting.
Got it. So Doyle and Cordelia are finishing up sealing up the apartment with duct tape, and they thought those creepy little fingers would be kept out through duct tape. They thought wrong. And the eyeballs are there, and they're surrounded by his other body parts. And that shot where Dr. Ron's body and his one hand take Cordelia and then the other hand takes Doyle down. I mean, wow.
I was also confused about how the body got in.
He let go of both of his hands. And so one of the hands was like in the vent, and then the other one got through the duct tape. So
and unlocked the door.
Yes.
And then reattached to the body.
Along with the eyeball.
Okay.
And then the other hand was just like trying to get
distracting.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was so that they'd be looking at the vent and not looking at the door.
Yeah. He must have been very skilled in ventriloquism or something. Like there was something, or like puppeteering, because that feels like a lot going on.
Well, surgeon.
That's
if you're
true.
a surgeon of a tiny piece of the body, your whole thing is like finger dexterity. So it follows.
Wow. So then he has this moment with Melissa
where he's back on his bullshit. He's just basically being like, you led me on, you disappoint me, you cheated on me, projecting all of these failed promises onto her when she really promised him nothing. And she is kind of done with it. Maybe it's the whiskey that Doyle snuck into her tea. Maybe it was the advice that Angel had given her that he's the weak one and you're the strong one.
You want to know what I think it was?
What?
I think it was herself. I think it was herself intuiting that she's the only one that can take her power back, and that's how she's going to do it.
But here's the thing. Kate is the one that expressed that, told it to Angel. Angel then gave her an empowering speech. So, of course, like, she found the root power in herself, but it was really through a message passed on through a man by a woman to her.
Wow.
Yeah. It was some Kate on Melissa empowerment via an angel.
Wow.
And she tells him, she's like, actually, you disgust me. I would never touch you. You are vile. You gave up on love a long time ago, and now you get off on pain,
You
motherfucker.
creep. Before we get to the climax, are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
And we've also got this hot new jingle from Jenny Owen Youngs.
Surprise!
Flirting, understanding, consent, and kissing. Flirting, understanding, consent, and kissing. Fuck watch.
Okay. So I think it's pretty obvious who I chose.
Is it?
Yeah. I chose the woman who supports other women. I chose that doctor who helped Cordelia out and who believed in the sisterhood of warning her about creepy men. And
wasn't Kate really the one that started that?
I'm not going to choose Kate yet.
Okay.
I think that doctor risked her career to whistleblow. And, she has probably spent so much money on student loans, going through medical school. And, she reached this point where, there are two roads. She could have lied to Cordelia, and then maybe Cordelia would have went back to Angel and been like, fuck. I mean, no, this female doctor said that, like, he's pretty cool to women. Like, maybe we've got the wrong dude, or maybe we don't know. But the fact that she corroborated Melissa's,
that turns you on.
Observation. I think just like justice
turns you on, just like Wonder Woman.
Justice and female solidarity and supporting other women and really ethical journalism.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I'm going to see if I can get away with this because it's not necessarily the person itself.
Oh, it's the hands.
Nope. It's not necessarily the person itself, but it's something generated from the person. So I'm wondering if I can pick this and still have the option to pick the person again in the future. But my fuck watch pick would be the confident, vulnerable expression of male bisexuality.
Oh. So now we can just pick.
You picked plywood last week.
At least it was tangible.
We are excuse me. What could be more tangible than the flicker of those beautiful blue Doyle eyes acknowledging that
I meant a concrete object or a person.
I know what tangible means. I'm saying that the energy around him in that realization and the way he expressed it, I found really appealing. And I didn't feel like it was a bit. I feel like, it was for comedic effect, but he was genuinely moved. And I was drawn to him in that moment of vulnerability. I feel like a lot of times when men come out as bisexual, I become more attracted to them.
Mm.
So I'm not necessarily saying it was Doyle. I'm saying that male bisexuality in that moment is what I was into. But if that counts as a Doyle pick, I'll live with it.
Hey, I don't make the rules.
You sure don't.
I'm into that pick.
All right.
Flirting, understanding, consent, and kissing. Flirting, understanding, consent, and kissing. Fuck watch.
So then Ronald is like, oh, Angel, then how is it that I killed him? And Angel comes out from behind the door that he was hiding behind, and it was like inefficiently. And then Ronald throws his fucking denture teeth at Angel, bites Angel, and then Angel finds this big table and just fucking knocks Ronald's brains off.
Right after Ronald has said to Melissa without his teeth in, "We could have been so happy."
Oh, God.
And he doesn't kill him. He just knocks him out. And then later, they put his body parts in multiple steel boxes and buries the boxes under a new LA subway station.
And that's not the first time in the Buffyverse that Angel has had to separate body parts and, try and ship them off to Asia.
He didn't ship them, though. He kept them local. He wants to be able to visit those puppies.
Hell yeah.
He wants to know where they are at all times.
But also, it seemed like it was pretty easy to knock Ronald's head off. And it was pretty, not messy at all. It was just a straight pop off.
I didn't see the head come off.
What? What are you talking about? He popped that little baby off like a Barbie doll.
Huh. I guess when you're used to removing your limbs, they just come off more easily.
Right, sure. They save the day. Angel's wearing a blue shirt, which he's trying to show us that he's diversifying his wardrobe. And Melissa brings in a plant for them. And Angel has to bring up the money issue. Doyle and Cordelia do some coughs here and some coughs here. And classic knock-knock joke, set it up, set it down, where Angel's like, we should talk about the bill. And Melissa's like, bill who? Classic.
She's like, wasn't a Ronald enough?
Yeah.
But then she's not at all flustered by the request for money. She thinks that Angel has more than deserved it. Even when he says, I didn't do this for money, she's like, oh, I know. Oh, I know, boo.
Was there an investigation since Ronald, a surgeon, died and went missing? Or is it because Kate and the police department knew about it and knew that he was a creep? They just kind of let it slide.
I don't think Kate would do that. I don't know that she would have the jurisdiction to just disappear a dude. It could be that all of his colleagues felt similarly about him as that one female doctor that you picked in Fuckwatch. And it was sort of like an Earl had to die moment.
And you know what? Just based on the fact that I chose her, and I really feel strongly about just how much of a trailblazer she is, I believe that she probably started this whole internal investigation, and she really led the charge, and was like, everybody, right? Ronald was a creep, and they were all like, actually, yeah, if she, if she says it, I feel comfortable telling my story as well. You know what I mean? Like, she just makes everyone feel comfortable enough to share their stories because she did it first. You know what I mean?
Right. And maybe she creates a narrative of like, he probably left town because he was being investigated by XYZ and he's getting the hell out of Dodge. Or also the fact that he had questionable practices that weren't like legal. Like maybe there would just be the story that he had gotten arrested for one of them or something like that.
Right.
But that is a good point about Kate and the police department. The fact that they were already involved makes it feel like they would have followed up. And for him to just be disappeared, like Kate's not going to endorse that. Kate's not going to endorse Angel killing him.
So then Angel and Cordelia and Doyle are kind of like having their wrap up moment because as we've seen, at least in the last few episodes, that each episode seems to begin in the office and then ends in the office, kind of much like a procedural. And Angel brings the plant to his desk, cracks a little sly smile, and lets Cordelia and Doyle walk into the sunlight and cash that puppy. Cash that little checkaroo.
Capitalist Cordy.
So how did you feel about this app?
I liked it. I mean, it was definitely quite full of one of my least favorite things, which is the patriarchy! But other than that, I felt like it was strong. I'm glad that I'm starting to see other dimensions of Doyle.
For sure.
I'm happy for Cordelia that a track she's been on since Ep 1 of getting her livelihood squared away is finally paying off.
And she's really making herself useful in a way that is so beneficial to the company and I think really makes her feel fulfilled. Because we all knew that she enjoyed helping people. She just didn't know how to access that. And, I mean, it was nice to not see a blonde woman in trouble this episode.
Yeah, diversifying the white women that Angel is saving.
Yes.
For fuck's sake.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Angel on Top. I'm Brittany Ashley, and when I'm not recording or editing this podcast, I'm editing and recording 2 other podcasts. I also write, and you can find my shit at BrittanyAshleyFunny.com.
And I'm Laura Zach. You can find me on the various websites that you probably spend a lot of your time anyway, both Instagram and Twitter. You'll find me with Brittany over at Sicker Sadder World, our Daria podcast. And I'm working on a website, so look forward to that.
Let me know if you need any help. You can follow Angel on Top on Instagram and Twitter at Angel on Topcast, and you can email us at angelontoppodcast@gmail.com should you have a query or perhaps a compliment.
Also, it would be so lovely if you would like to join our community and support us on Patreon at patreon.com/angelontop. That will give you access to a private Facebook group. Also, we've got some perks. And we've got a sick shirt that you can buy if you go to angelontop.com and click the store tab. And if you give at the $10 level on Patreon, you'll get 20% off the shirt and any other merch that we add in the future.
You can also leave us a review on iTunes, but only if it's nice. We'll be back in 2 weeks, but in the meantime, listen to Buffering the Vampire Slayer as we are a never-ending sandwich of episodes.
And now, as we end every episode, here is an original poem written by Brittany and myself from the point of view of Angel this episode.
I fall to pieces. A lapsed morning brew paired with Cordy's fiscal doubts. It's dissent for breakfast. Heroes don't accept handouts. Doyle's paper-filled vision into its brunette and strife, yet my approach was too alarming, story of my afterlife. If my all-black wardrobe gives a hair-raising impression, a reasonable beige sweater will start my image progression. This surgeon's obsession and his motive in question paints a rage-filled affinity rooted in toxic masculinity. Anything is possible when you have the nerve, but science turns deadly when profaned by pervs. Despite expertise ocular, this doctor's not popular. In white male privilege he stands, without eyes or hands. Woman who used to be lover of canines, jumper of bungee, is rendered dormant by patriarchy. Her inner strength provides the key. Now that she's stripped him of ego, Ronald's parts are landfill. See you never, Melissa. Thanks for paying your bill.
Hi, I'm Dana Schwartz, and this is Rise or Die, the official companion podcast for Peacock's original series, Those About to Die. On this podcast, I go behind the scenes with the show's cast and creators to learn how they brought their brutal vision of Rome to life. I talked to acclaimed director and executive producer Roland Emmerich.
When I saw the first race, I was like giddy.
Actor Ewan Ryan.
For an actor, that's a dream, although you do get a lot of sand in your sandals.
And so many more.
You helped summon those ghosts back onto that stage.
Every day when I went to set, I was giggling about what I saw.
I think it's going to be a breathtaking thing.
Gosh, people will freak out.
Rise or Die launches on July 18th. Watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Ah, the web tour. Those that both created and were created by the threads disentangle from the fringes to feast on the very thing that spawned them.
What's up, Jenny? This is how you deal with weird!
No! Do not harm my children!
Oh, you lost a feather. Can I keep it?
No, you can't force me to!
Do you know what lies within nothing?
Rocket's in trouble, Akasa! Can we turn on the windshield remotely?
No, she could lose her job as an Akasar.
I don't fear Vehar.
No, but you fear me. If you intend to trick me, I will not hesitate to sever the oath bond entirely.
Why didn't you help me? Coward! I don't have a parachute! I don't like free falling!
Counterbalance, a high fantasy audio drama. Season 2, coming 15th of October 2023. Learn more on trilunas.com.